In this episode, I'm going to cover enabling and disabling the button in Flutter. I'll cover toggling the button's enabled state, and then I'll change the button's onPressed function to do that. Okay, so to get going, I'm going to go to the IDE, and I've already created a bare bones project, and in this project, I have a simple material application, and it's just a home page, as I do in most of my episodes. And what I did is I have a scaffolding, and over on the left, you can see it as a demo me button. And this demo me has an onPressed method. Well, to disable the button, let me just show you how I could do that. I'm going to go press null here, or enter null. And then I'll hit the hot reload button up here, and that will disable the button when it doesn't have an onPressed function to call. Okay, so how would I change that logically in my code and update that? Okay, so what I want to do, my goal is to change that. So the first thing I'm going to do is go onPressed, and I'm going to make this a private variable here. Okay, so onPressed. It doesn't have to be private in this case, but I'm going to name it private just for effect in this tutorial. Okay, and then I'm going to hoist it up below or above the return method. So I'll go var onPressed equals null. And I don't have to initialize it with null because they're always null by default. So onPressed is defined. So if I were to hot reload that, that's going to be null, and so it'll be disabled. So how do I make it so it's enabled? How would I define this method? Well, I could say if let's say enabled is true, then I could say onPressed is equal to an anonymous function here in line. And what I could do is, okay, print enabled or something, or print tap. Okay, so then I want to update this enabled. So I'm going to define that as an internal state variable here. So I'm going to go bool, state my intention with this variable, underscore enabled. And then I'll just say false by default. And so then I can run that. Okay, it's still false. That's good. And the next thing is, what can I do to mock this, to switch that? Well, I can use a toggle button. So I'm going to add to the list tile. This is a list view, so list tile. So then I can say I'm going to add another new switch list tile. And this will allow me to switch it, and I'll use the enabled. I'll change or toggle the enabled state variable. But the way I got to do that, I got to say bool value. It provides that, and I'll do a method body there, in this case, comma to trail. Okay, and then what I want to do is update that. So the way I have to update an internal state variable, because it's going to be used in changing the rendering, is I'm going to go set state autocomplete. Nicely done, little body function there. And then I'm going to say, okay, my enabled state is now going to be equal to the value. Okay, so then it'll update. So that I'm ready. Hot reload icon button up there. Okay, I'm clicking on the toggle. When it's enabled, it enables the button, and I can tap. If I were to look at the debug, let me just minimize that, and I'll press on tap, and there's the tap. So that is really easy to enable and disable the button simply by changing an internal state variable, which says when it builds again, when it's enabled, just provide it with a different inline function here. And I can make this a little bit more verbose, but it doesn't matter how I'm doing it. The idea is, what I'm trying to get across is there's options to do this and use it in your application development. You don't necessarily have to build it and construct it just like I did it here. There's lots of different ways of constructing Dart. Okay, so that concludes showing the enable and disabling the button in this episode. Thanks for watching today. Follow me for more tips and tricks on Flutter, and I'll catch you later.